All right, sports fans, how's everybody out there doing? William Martin coming at you one more time here on YouTube with another edition of the 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge Podcast. So, guess what? The Big Ten wants to expand the college football playoff, and it looks like they're not going to take no for an answer. So, with the current CFP at 12 teams, the Big Ten wants to double that number to 24. No more automatic qualifiers while also doing away with conference championship games. The Big Ten, to me, is appealing to their colleagues from the aspect that, hey, most coaches are not fans of the conference championship games to begin with. And and swapping out those conference championship games in favor of more playoff games would result in more money. The Big Ten is also appealing to the fact that, hey, most of these coaches nowadays are feeling the pressures of the playoff or bust aspect of the current landscape of college football. Now, like the Big Ten, the SEC is also in favor of expansion of the CFP, but instead of 14 teams, the SEC is looking at going with 16. Uh, with that said, you've got the Big Ten and SEC who have the controlling interest in this college football tournament. You got to ask yourself which one of these heavyweights is going to win out. Okay. It's one of those where, from the looks of things, a 24 team playoff would result in eight first round games on campus. The top eight teams would get buys, and then we'd get eight more on campus games in the second round before going to a neutral bowl site for the bowl games in the quarterfinals. So, with all of that said, one question for me is, what is the likelihood that we see a 24 team playoff in college football? Well, you know what? A year ago, I would have said, you know what? Not going to happen. But after seeing the Big Ten's proposal, I do believe that this is the best chance that we're going to get, at least to up until this point right now, for it to happen. Don't get me wrong. I'm not a fan of it, but I'm being a realist about this. And at the end of the day, this is all about money. And there's more money in the college football playoff than in the conference championship games. And of course, with these mega conferences right now, it's becoming tougher than ever to reach your conference championship game. I also think about from the standpoint of, hey, those cities that host the conference championship games, they would clearly lose out on money. You think about Atlanta. Atlanta has been home to the Southeast Conference Championship game for more than 30 years. How much money would the ATL lose out on not having that game? You think about the Big Ten's championship game in Indianapolis, the Big 12's game in Arlington, and we can go right down the list. Now, another aspect to talk about for me is, you think about it, because basically the Big Ten's proposed format, would be 23 teams plus a group of six squad. So you're going to have all the group of six schools, basically for the most part, fighting for that one spot. And whereas that the Big Ten is looking to do away with the conference championship games, what about the group of five or the group of six? It's one of those where that conference championship game could be huge, and we've seen it in recent years. You think about this past college football season. You look at the American Conference. We had three teams in the American go 7-1 within the league. Okay, Tulane, North Texas, and Navy. And then, of course, it was one of those where Tulane won the conference championship game. North Texas missed out. It's one of those where also you think about the Sun Belt Conference as another example this past season. With James Madison with what they did there. So again, for me, I still think that these conference championship games are important. Uh, getting back to the group of six, I think the group of six, uh, they're probably going to get screwed out of this. And the reason is because you think about the original proposal for the 24 team format, it was going to be two automatic qualifiers from the group of six. That no longer is going to be the case. It's also one of those things for me um, that with this 2014 format that the Big Ten is proposing, it's going to put even less emphasis on an already fading bowl system. Remember, within the last couple of weeks, we've seen a couple of bowl games go by the wayside. I think that there are more to come, and they're going to continue to get squeezed out because of the lack of the importance for them right now. As right now, and I've said this for the last year or so, in the current landscape of college football, it is the playoff or bust. Bowl games are going the way of the NIT in college basketball. If you don't make the NCAA tournament, you know what? Nobody really cares. And that's basically what the bowl games are going to continue to be. So, when it's all said and done, where is college football headed? Because I say this because, yeah, the Big Ten is looking to expand its system once again. But if anybody believes that this thing is going to stop at 24 teams, I got news for you. It's not going to happen. It's one of those for me, in my opinion. Okay, I was a fan of the 14 playoff. It put such an emphasis on handling your business. It put such an emphasis on winning your games and winning your league. I felt like if they wanted to expand, maybe go to six or go to eight, they completely went a step above that and went to 12. And now there was talks about going to 14 and there was talks about going to 16. They've completely glossed over that once again and jumped over that once again, and now they are talking about 24 teams. It's one of those things, again, it won't surprise me sooner rather than later that we're talking about 32 teams or we're talking about 40 teams because nobody is there to regulate this thing and is going to continue to go out of control. Why? Because it's all about the money. Okay. And I believe it or not, I truly do think that some of these institutions are going to be on board with it because they want that revenue, they want that additional money, and they want a way to justify all of their spending for the NILs. Remember, we've seen more and more schools come out and talk about being in the red as far as what they're losing, in spite of the fact that they are in prestigious conferences like the Big Ten, where they are making big time money from the media deals. And even though that with this 2014 playoff, there would no more automatic qualifiers in this proposal. You know that this thing is going to continue to be dominated by the SEC and the Big Ten. As an example, let's just say we had a 2014 playoff. We already had five teams from the SEC this year in a 12-team playoff. We had three teams from the Big Ten. I guarantee you, in the 2014 playoff, we're probably going to be talking about at least a combined 14 teams from the Big Ten and the SEC. There's also a proposal within the proposal that, hey, the possibility of no regular season rematches in round one and conference foes who didn't meet during the regular season could meet. Honestly, I think that's weak. I think it's a cop out. Okay. And I think a lot of this, in my opinion, is a cop out because it's one of those where you see schools that want to go to the Big Ten. You see schools that want to go to the SEC. Okay, and then you get there, and then you complain about who you have to play. The bottom line is go out there and win your games. You're not having this problem. We heard about Texas this past season, complaining about having to go on the road and losing to Ohio State. Well, guess what? If you go out there and win your game against Ohio State, nobody's talking about this. You're in the college football playoff. Remember, Texas began this past season ranked first in the nation. They didn't take care of their business. Now it's one of those where you know what, schools just want to be rewarded for the league that they play in. They basically don't want the smoke, but they want to sit up there and they want to get the rewards in spite of the fact that they're not handling their business. I don't care who you play, whether you play a top tier team or you play a lower tier team. The bottom line is the goal is you want to go out there and win as many games as possible. You take care of your business, that puts everything to the side. You're not worried about, well, what about this team? What about that team? Is this team going to help me out? No, you've got to go out there and handle your business. That's just my 2 cents on it. But at the end of the day, you look at this proposal, and everybody's at the mercy of the Big Ten and the SEC because they control this thing, and everybody else basically sold their soul to them. And they really didn't have a choice because the Big Ten and the SEC just simply flexed their muscles on things. So you look at this, and in reading the Big Ten's proposal, like I said, I don't agree with it personally, but I think it's not a matter of if, it's more like a matter of when we see this thing expanded once more. And the bottom line is it comes down to money. And it's not just the money that these schools are already making. It's the money that when you have a network like ESPN, ABC, Disney, who controls the playoff, they're going to continuously go out there and throw more money at these schools to expand this postseason for ratings. And the bottom line is, more often than not, these schools are going to take the money hook, line, and sinker. Every single year, I keep saying it doesn't matter how many teams that you have in the playoff. If you go to 24, okay, there's going to be a 25th, 26th, 27th, 28th, and 29th team at least beefing about saying, hey, I didn't make the college football playoff. I had a legit gripe to get in there. So for all of those people who wanted to see Notre Dame in the college football playoff this past year, or maybe a Vanderbilt, or maybe a Texas, I've got news for you. Going to 24 teams is not going to change that. It's only going to magnify it, and it's only going to make it worse. I have a simple solution, and it's never going to happen. But you know what? Maybe, just maybe, if we go back to the old days where you had a conference of 8 teams, 9 teams, or 10 teams, everybody played everybody. You have your conference champion, and your conference champion just sits out there and gets a bid. Instead of having conferences where you got 18 teams and 16 teams and 17 teams, where clearly everybody's not going to play each other, you know what? Have a 10-team conference. Have a league where you know what? Everybody's playing everybody. You play a 9-game conference schedule. Everybody plays everybody. There's no excuses, and you move on. Okay, your conference champion gets into the college football playoff, and we take it from there. It still puts the emphasis on the importance of that. But the bottom line is, like I said before, that these guys right now are chasing the money. Not a fan, again, of this 2014 proposal. I think it passes through at some point, sooner rather than later. And I think if people disagree with the Big Ten's latest proposal, I think they're going to go back to the drawing board, and they're going to try to sweeten the pot a little bit more because they are going to leverage themselves to the point where people just don't say no. Remember, the first time around when the Big Ten said we won a 2014 playoff, nobody paid attention. This time around, the Big Ten is, I guarantee you, they've probably intrigued some schools from the power leagues just to at least sit up and think about it. And if the Big Ten doesn't get the support that they want, they're going to go back and, like I said before, sweeten this pot a little bit more until they give people an offer that they cannot refuse. More expansion is on the horizon. It's just a matter of how many teams that this tournament is going to be expanded to. And like I said before, once it gets to 16 or 24, it makes no difference. It's only a matter of time before this thing continues to expand. Before you blink, you might have as many teams in the college football playoff as you have in the NCAA tournament for men's basketball and women's basketball. That's the bottom line. But like I said, money talks. They don't care how much they have to water this down. I think 12 teams is more than enough. You play 12 regular season games, and in the case of some of these teams, you play a conference championship game as well. That is more than enough time to figure out who the best teams in college football are. But the bottom line is It's all about money. And at the same time, we continuously hear these excuses from the schools who don't get there as far as their road being too difficult. The bottom line is go out there, buckle them up, and play. You win your games, you ain't got a doggone thing to worry about. Just my 2 cents. But like I said, it's not a matter of if, it's more like when we see more expansion to the CFP. But folks, that is going to wrap it up. And as always, I want to take this time out to thank each and every one of you for checking out the 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge podcast here on YouTube. And as always, if you like what you heard and saw on this podcast, you know what to do. Just hit that like button as well as subscribing to this channel. And like I always say, it's greatly appreciated. Also, if you are on the X, formerly known as Twitter, you can check me out anytime at 300 Pounds of Sports. And like I always say, if you give me that follow, it'll be my pleasure to do the same in return. That also goes for Instagram, where you can check me out at 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge. Also, if you are on Facebook, please be sure to check out the Sports Depot 365. And as far as I'm concerned, one of the better sports groups going on social media. But until next time, fine folks, my name is William Martin. I'm signing off, and I'm saying thanks once again for checking out the 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge podcast here on YouTube. Be well, everybody.